Private Amira Khalil sat in the intelligence briefing room, listening to audio intercepts from an enemy compound. She spoke 5 languages fluently: Arabic, Pashto, Dari, Farsi, English. Born in a Syrian refugee camp, raised in Jordan, came to America at 14 with nothing but the clothes on her back and a talent for words. The army had been her ticket to citizenship, her chance at a future, her way to give back to the country that took her in. But the other translators did not trust her completely. Too emotional, they said, behind her back. Gets too attached to the people in the recordings. Cries. When translating intercepted calls from civilians caught in crossfire. Not professional enough for intelligence work. Amira heard every word of it. She tried to be harder, more detached, more clinical. But when she heard voices begging for mercy or children crying in the background, she could not help but feel it, because she had been that child once. Then came the day she heard something in an intercepted call that made her blood run cold. A woman singing a lullaby, and Amira realized the compound they were about to strike was not an enemy stronghold. It was a school full of children. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you never miss these true tales of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? Amira Khalil was 6 years old when the war came to her village in Syria. She remembered the sound of planes overhead, the way her mother grabbed her hand and ran, the explosion that turned their home into rubble behind them. They fled to Jordan, joined thousands of others in a refugee camp that stretched for miles. Tents, dust, heat. Waiting. Her father had stayed behind to fight. They never heard from him again. Her mother worked in the camp doing laundry for other families. Amira went to the makeshift school where aid workers taught reading and math on chalkboards under canvas tarps. That was where she discovered her gift for languages. The aid workers spoke English. The camp residents spoke Arabic. Some spoke Pashto or Dari or Farsi depending on where they fled from. Amira absorbed them all like a sponge soaking up water. By age 10, she was translating for aid workers. By 12, she was helping negotiate disputes between families from different regions who did not share a common language. By 14, the resettlement agency noticed her, asked if she wanted to go to America, start a new life. Her mother said, "Go, my daughter. Make something of yourself. I will come later." Amira never saw her mother again. She died of pneumonia 6 months after Amira left, alone in that tent, buried in a camp cemetery with no marker. America was overwhelming at first. The lights, the noise, the abundance, grocery stores with more food than she had seen in her entire life. High school was hard. Her English was good but accented. Kids made fun of the way she pronounced certain words, asked where she was really from, told her to go back. But Amira kept going, studied hard, graduated top of her class, joined the army because it offered a path to citizenship and a way to use her languages. Basic training was brutal. The physical demands, the yelling, the constant pressure. But Amira had survived a war zone, had lived in a refugee camp for 8 years, had buried her mother from across an ocean. She could survive anything. Language school was where she excelled. She already spoke 4 languages. They taught her military terminology, intelligence protocols, how to translate without emotion. That last part was the hardest for her to learn. Because when Amira heard voices in Arabic or Pashto, she did not just hear words. She heard people, stories, lives. She heard the mother begging soldiers not to take her son. She heard the old man asking where his village went. She heard the child crying for parents who would never answer. Her instructors told her to detach. Be objective. Just translate the words, not the meaning behind them. Amira tried her best to follow orders, but her heart would not let her forget that every voice in those recordings was a person. Someone who had dreams once. Someone who loved and was loved. Someone like her. Amira had been in Afghanistan for 3 months when the intercept came through. Intelligence had been tracking a compound in Kandahar province for weeks. Suspected Taliban leadership. Weapons cache. High-value target. The decision was made. Airstrike. Surgical. Minimal collateral damage. Amira was assigned to review the final audio intercepts. Make sure the intelligence was solid. Confirm enemy presence. She sat in the small room with headphones on, listening to hours of recorded conversations. Most of it was routine. Men discussing supplies, movement schedules, guard rotations, standard enemy communications. But then at our 3 of the recordings, Amira heard something that made her pause. A woman's voice. Soft singing, not just any song. A lullaby. One Amira recognized immediately because her own mother had sung it to her when she was small. Sleep, my little one. The moon watches over you. The stars keep you safe. Tomorrow the sun will rise again. Amira sat up straight, rewound the recording, listened again more carefully this time. The woman was singing to children, multiple children based on the background sounds. Small voices, laughter, the shuffle of small feet, then a man's voice. Not harsh or commanding, gentle and patient. Settle down now. Time for lessons after rest. Amira's breath caught in her throat. Lessons. Not training. Not operations. Lessons. She kept listening. Pulled up every intercept from that compound over the past week. Played them in sequence. The pattern emerged clearly once she knew what to listen for. Morning prayers, breakfast sounds, children reciting lessons, afternoon study time, evening meals. This was not a Taliban compound. This was a school, an illegal one probably. The Taliban banned most education, especially for girls. So someone was running a secret school, teaching children in a compound that from the outside looked like any other building. But intelligence had missed it. Saw armed guards. Heard male voices discussing security. Assumed enemy activity. They were about to bomb a school full of children. Amira's hands shook as she pulled off her headphones. She ran to find her supervisor, Lieutenant Morrison, a career intelligence officer who had been doing this for 15 years. Sir, I need to speak with you immediately. It is urgent. Morrison looked up from his paperwork. What is it, Khalil? The compound in Kandahar. The strike target. It is not what we think it is. We've confirmed it as enemy activity. No, sir. Amira's voice was firm, despite her fear of contradicting a superior officer. I reviewed the intercepts. There are children there. A woman singing lullabies. A teacher giving lessons. It is a school, sir. Morrison frowned. Are you certain? Yes, sir. Completely certain. I can play you the recordings. He listened. His expression changed as the evidence mounted. The lullaby, the lessons, the sounds that clearly came from children, not soldiers. He reached for his radio. This is Morrison. We need to halt the strike on Target Hotel 7 immediately. New intelligence suggests civilian presence. The response came back. Strike is already authorized. Birds are wheels up in 20 minutes. Morrison's jaw tightened. Then get them on the ground. This is a no-go. Repeat, this is a no-go. So we have confirmed enemy presence at that location. And we have confirmed children at that location. Unless you want to explain to command why we just bombed a school, I suggest you abort. Now, there was a long pause, then the reluctant response. Copy, aborting strike, stand by for new intel. Morrison looked at Amira. How did we miss this? We were listening for what we expected to hear, sir, not what was actually there. And you heard the difference. I heard the lullaby, sir. My mother used to sing it to me when I was small. The strike was aborted with 10 minutes to spare, but not everyone was happy about it. A mission delayed meant resources wasted, intel questioned, operational tempo disrupted, and some officers blamed Amira for it. She is too emotional, too invested, hearing things that aren't there because she wants them to be schools, not enemy compounds. The whispers grew louder. This time, a senior analyst, Major Richards, made his opinion clear in a briefing 2 days later. Private Khalil's background makes her unsuitable for objective intelligence work. Her personal history with refugee camps and civilian casualties creates bias. We cannot have translators who second-guess confirmed targets based on feelings. Amira sat in the back of that briefing room and felt every word like a physical blow. She had saved children, and now she was being punished for it. Lieutenant Morrison defended her. Private Khalil identified details that our other analysts missed. Her cultural knowledge and language skills prevented a catastrophic mistake. Major Richards was unmoved, or she got lucky. And next time, her emotional response might delay a legitimate strike that cost American lives. The debate went up the chain of command. Meanwhile, Amira kept working, kept translating, kept listening to intercepts with the same careful attention to detail. But now she questioned herself, second-guessed her instincts, wondered if Richards was right. Maybe she was too emotional, too biased, too close to the voices in those recordings. Maybe she should be more detached like the others. Then 3 weeks later, another intercept came through, another compound, another strike planned. This time Amira listened and heard exactly what intelligence expected: male voices, weapons discussion, guard schedules, tactical planning, clear enemy activity. No children, no civilians, just combatants. She filed her translation without comment. The strike went forward. The compound was destroyed. 3 high-value targets eliminated. Mission success. But when the ground team moved in to assess, they found something unexpected in the rubble. Textbooks, children's drawings, small desks. It had been a school, hidden inside what looked like a weapons storage facility, evacuated hours before the strike based on intelligence that an attack was coming. The children had escaped, but barely. If the strike had come one day earlier, they would have been inside. Lieutenant Morrison came to find Amira, showed her the photos from the site. You were right to question things, to listen for what doesn't fit the pattern. That instinct saved lives once. It could have saved them again if we had asked the right questions. Amira looked at the photos of those empty desks, those drawings scattered in rubble. I almost didn't say anything this time, sir. I thought maybe Major Richards was right. Maybe I was too emotional. Morrison shook his head firmly. Emotion isn't the problem, Khalil. Caring about the people behind the voices isn't a weakness. It is what makes you a better analyst than people who only hear words. He paused, then added something that changed everything for Amira. The first compound, the one you stopped us from striking. We sent a ground team to investigate last week. You want to know what they found? What, sir? 47 children, ages 6 to 14, all learning to read and write in a school their parents built in secret. If you hadn't heard that lullaby, if you hadn't trusted your instincts, those 47 kids would be dead right now. 47 lives, because Amira had refused to detach completely, because she had listened not just with her ears, but with her heart. After the second near miss, with the school word spread through the intelligence community. Private Khalil, the translator who hears what others miss, who saved 47 children, who listens to recordings. Like she knows the people speaking, requests for her analysis started coming from other units, other bases, special operations teams who needed someone who could parse not just words, but context, intent, cultural nuance. Amira found herself in meetings with colonels, with CIA analysts, with people who had been doing intelligence work since before she was born. They asked her how she did it. How do you know when something is off? When the intelligence doesn't match reality? Amira thought carefully before answering. I listen for the things that don't belong. A lullaby in a weapons compound. A teacher's voice in a training facility. The sound of children in a place that should only have soldiers. I listen for humanity in places where we expect only violence. One CIA analyst, a woman named Sarah Chan, who had been in the field for 20 years, pulled Amira aside after a briefing. I used to be like you. I used to hear the people behind the voices, but they trained it out of me, told me it made me weak, made me hesitate. I lost that ability years ago, and I regret it every day. She looked at Amira with something like sadness. Don't let them take that from you. The world needs analysts who remember that intelligence is about people, not just data. Major Richards never apologized, never acknowledged he had been wrong, but he stopped blocking Amira's reports, stopped questioning her assessments. And when another analyst flagged a compound as all clear, Richards ordered Amira to review it anyway. Just to be sure, he said without looking at her. Amira reviewed the intercepts, found nothing suspicious, confirmed the assessment. But the fact that Richards had asked meant something had shifted. 6 months into her deployment, Amira was recommended for promotion, for a commendation, for recognition that her unique skills were valuable, not problematic. The citation read in part for exceptional analytical skills and cultural awareness. That prevented civilian casualties and enhanced mission effectiveness. But the words that mattered most came from Lieutenant Morrison in private. You saved lives, Khalil, not by being less emotional, but by caring enough to listen carefully. That is the kind of soldier the Army needs more of. Amira thought about her mother then, about the woman who had sent her daughter away to give her a better life, who had died alone in a tent believing her child would make something of herself. I hope I made you proud, Mama, Amira whispered to a photo she kept in her locker, and somewhere in the way the light caught the image, it almost seemed like her mother was smiling back. 2 years after that first intercepted lullaby, Amira received an unusual request. A group of Afghan civilians wanted to meet her, refugees who had been relocated to the United States. They had heard about the translator who stopped an airstrike on a school. Amira was nervous. She did not see herself as a hero. She had just been doing her job, but she agreed to the meeting. They gathered in a community center in Virginia. 15 people, men, women, and children. An older man stepped forward. He spoke in Pashto, his voice shaking with emotion. "You are the soldier who heard the lullaby." Amira nodded slowly. "I was one of the translators working that day." The man turned and gestured to the group behind him. "These are the families from that school. The one you saved." Amira's breath caught in her throat. The children who had been in that compound. The ones learning to read in secret. The ones who would have died if the strike had proceeded. They were here, standing in front of her, alive and safe in America. A young girl stepped forward, maybe 12 years old now, but she would have been 10 when the intercept was recorded. She spoke in halting English. "You heard my grandmother singing. You knew we were children. You saved us." Amira knelt down to be at eye level with the girl. "What is your name?" "Sarah." The girl smiled shyly. "I am learning to be a teacher, like the one who taught me in that school. Because of you I get to grow up and teach other children." Amira could not stop the tears this time. All the criticism, all the doubt, all the questioning of whether her emotions made her weak. It all fell away in the face of this moment, this child, this life, this future that existed because Amira had refused to be completely detached. The older man spoke again. "We have a saying in our language, one who saves a single life saves the world entire. You saved 47 worlds that day, and we will never forget it." The family stayed for hours, sharing tea, telling stories, showing Amira photos of the children graduating from American schools, getting driver's licenses, starting jobs, building lives. As Amira drove home that evening, she thought about the path that had led her here, from a war zone to a refugee camp to America, from a girl who lost everything to a soldier who saved children by listening to a lullaby her own mother once sang. She thought about Major Richards and the others who said she was too emotional, and she realized they were wrong. She was not too emotional. She was exactly emotional enough to remember that behind every voice was a person. Every target was someone's home. Every strike had consequences. That mattered beyond military objectives. That is what made her good at her job. That is what saved lives. Being human in a world that sometimes forgot humanity was not a weakness. It was her greatest strength. Sometimes the very thing people criticize you for is exactly what makes you extraordinary. Amira Khalil proved that caring deeply is not a flaw. It is a superpower. The ability to hear what others miss, to see people not just data, to remember that behind every decision are lives that matter. Subscribe so you never miss these stories of quiet heroes who changed the world by refusing to stop caring. Tell us in the comments, when has your empathy saved someone? When has feeling deeply made you stronger, not weaker? Sometimes the most important skill is not detachment, but the courage to stay human.